In a quiet little town, there lived a 15-year-old boy named Rafi. Every morning he walked 3 long kilometers to school, through dusty lanes, past old shops, and over broken paths. His clothes were old, his shoes torn, and his school bag was stitched more than once. In class, he always sat on the last bench, silent, unnoticed. The teachers rarely called his name. The other students laughed at him, sometimes whispered, "Look, the invisible boy has arrived." He never replied. He just smiled faintly and looked away. But behind that quiet smile, there was a storm of dreams too big for his small world. Every night, after serving tea at a small roadside stall, Rafi would return home to his sick mother and little sister. He would sit near the window, look up at the stars, and whisper softly, "One day, I will become a great scientist. The world will know my name." No one heard that whisper. No one saw the boy's struggle. But somewhere in the vast, silent night sky, his dream had already begun to take shape.
One morning, everything began to change. A new science teacher walked into the classroom, Miss Tara. She was calm, confident, and had eyes that noticed what others ignored. As she looked around the class, her gaze stopped on Rafi, sitting alone on the last bench, quiet as always. While the others giggled and whispered, she slowly walked towards him. She asked gently, "Tell me, Rafi, what do you want to become?" The whole class burst into laughter. Some students whispered, "He probably has no dream." But Rafi looked up, his voice soft yet firm. "I want to become a scientist. I want to discover something big, something that can change the world." The laughter faded. The room fell silent. Miss Tara smiled, a small, knowing smile, and said, "Then you must sit in the front row from today. Dreams like that need attention." That simple sentence changed everything. For the first time, someone believed in him. And sometimes, one person's belief is enough to turn an invisible boy into a shining star.
From that day onward, Rafi's life began to change, slowly, quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. Miss Tara started giving him extra lessons after school. She brought him old textbooks, science magazines, and even broken lab equipment for practice. Every evening, Rafi would sit near the dim light of a candle, reading each page as if it were a piece of gold. He studied formulas, solved problems, and filled notebooks with dreams. At night, after finishing his job at the tea shop, he would whisper to himself, "One more day, one more step closer to my dream." But the road was never easy. There were nights when his mother had no medicine, days when there was no food on the table, and winters when the cold wind cut through his thin clothes like knives. Still, Rafi never stopped. Even when his hands were frozen, he held his books tighter. People said, "Poor boys do not become scientists." But Rafi said softly, "Then let me be the first." In that tiny room filled with hunger, cold, and candlelight, a fire was burning. A fire called faith. Years passed, seasons changed, and the boy from the last bench finally saw the door to his dream open. Rafi earned a scholarship to study at a big city university. He packed his few belongings, a pair of old clothes, some books, and his mother's photograph. With tears in her eyes, his mother whispered, "Go, my son, make the stars proud of you." City life was not easy. He lived in a tiny hostel room, often sleeping hungry. He could not afford new clothes, but he never missed a single class.
While others spent their evenings laughing in cafes, Rafi spent his nights alone in the laboratory, testing ideas, fixing wires, mixing solutions, chasing light in the darkness. Failure came again and again. Experiments exploded, results failed, and professors doubted him. But each failure became a lesson. Each rejection became fuel. And then, one night, after years of silence, struggle, and sleepless effort, it happened. A small spark, a working model of clean energy, powerful, simple, and revolutionary. Tears filled his eyes. He had done it. The boy who once had nothing had created something that could change the world. Years later, Rafi's invention in clean energy changed his life forever. His work was published in global journals. Awards followed. People began calling him the boy who never gave up. At an international science conference, Rafi stood on stage. People from all over the world clapped for him. But in his heart, he saw his mother, his sister, and Miss Tara smiling. He said softly, "I was once the boy on the last bench, the one who had nothing but a dream. But I had a teacher who believed in me, and I believed in myself. That was enough." He paused, his eyes wet with tears. Never let your background define your future. Even if no one claps for you now, keep working. One day, the whole world will stand up for you. The crowd rose in applause, and as Rafi looked up at the stars that once heard his whispers, he smiled, knowing his dream had finally come true. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to Life Diamond Compass. Stay strong and keep believing.